Africa Day, a festival of freedom for the newly independent countries. Israel can readily recall the period of foreign rule and knows full well how to join in the celebrations of the African peoples. Amongst the crowd are hundreds of representatives of the African states, many foreign diplomats as well as officials of the Israel government. The Foreign Minister, Mrs. Golda Meir, addresses them all with these words.
And it seems to me that this should be called, at any rate, the deep meaning of Africa Day is really the day of humanity. It is the day of justice. It is the day of decency of all mankind. But most of your countries, I believe, are very young countries. But you're not young in the desire for freedom, and you are not young in the determination to achieve freedom, and you have achieved it.
They come from all parts of the African continent, at the invitation of the Israel government or the General Federation of Labor, for differing periods of time, but all with one aim: to learn from the experience of a young country which is itself going through a dynamic stage of its economic development. This group from the Central African Republic is here for a year to graduate in a variety of professions: agriculture, cooperativism, carpentry, metalwork, electrical engineering, and the girls will become hospital nurses. The town of Netanya plays host to more than 70 trainees from various French and English-speaking African states. In the afternoon and evening they can be seen in town, in the cafes or on the beach. But during working hours, it's a very different story. The day's work starts at Netanya's Ort Vocational School. Ort, the Organization for Rehabilitation Training, was founded 80 years ago and operates throughout the world. Here in Israel, it entertains a series of vocational schools. Developing countries need experienced workers in great numbers to speed their plans for the future. No novelty. Her training schools and instructors are at the service of her African friends. This course trains woodworkers who will be able to carry out carpentry work in both building and furniture manufacture. The intensive courses include theoretical studies as well. The problem of a productive building program is one which can be found everywhere, but particularly in a newly developing state. In response to great demand, Israel organizes courses for building foremen and workers, as well as frequent seminars and congresses on the problems of accommodation and housing. The seminars include study tours throughout the country to see many forms of new construction, both in housing and in public buildings. Those undertaking the course for building foremen from the English-speaking African states take a look at a precast concrete plant, where concrete building sections for houses are ready-made. These are professional workers who have come to Israel to learn from her experience in the field of modern housing. Over the years, Israel has taken in more than 1 million new immigrants and has been forced to solve an acute housing problem by means of rapid building and planning. This, in turn, has necessitated the training of literally thousands of builders and foremen to carry out a vast construction program. Hence this country's experience, which he now places at the disposal of others. Building in Israel goes on and on. Public buildings and private housing shoot up like mushrooms after the rain. Whole neighborhood units are constructed at one go, like this suburb of Tel Aviv known as Ramat Aviv. Here can be found many useful examples of new construction methods. But of all the courses organized in Israel, the most popular are those in the various forms of agricultural cooperation. Throughout Israel's cooperative farming settlements can be found hundreds of young people from African and Asian countries who are studying their various methods, in theory, but above all through practical work in the fields, the cowsheds and the storehouses. Kfar Hes is one of 6 farming settlements playing host to families from Burma who have come here for a lengthy stay of 18 months. They are all the families of demobilized Burmese army officers. Major Sawthan, who leads the group, is concerned with managing a cooperative farm, and Mr. Billig, the farm secretary, explains the settlement's communal granary. Lieutenant Mien Tien is interested in fruit trees, particularly citrus fruits, and he works in all branches of citrus growing. Planting out in the nursery, and later harvesting, where we also find trooper Mitab. On the other hand, Nu Mien can be found in the chicken house, where he learns all about poultry breeding from an experienced old-timer. Today, eggs are hatched in the incubator, and it's a big job sorting the males from the females. But Nu Mien has successfully mastered the system. Twice a week, the students' wives bring their children, who were born in Israel, to the Mother and Child Clinic. In the space of a year, 10 baby Burmese were born in this country, and their parents Israel, a greeting meaning peace, shalom. Lunch to be prepared. Each wife grows the vegetables she needs in her own garden. Anything left over is sold together with the other farm produce. Here on the farm, the wives busy themselves with their weaving and embroidery, an occupation which can be an art in itself. Mrs. Peppo is a good neighbor and guide to Tin Tia next door. Tin Tia's daughter has been named Israela. After work, Lieutenant Mien Tien devotes himself to his painting. He will take back with him as souvenirs the pictures he has painted in Israel. But this Burmese landscape he will leave behind as a souvenir for the farm secretary. In the evenings, the students meet with the secretary to sum up the day's events. This is where all the problems are dealt with. At the same time, Tin Tia puts little Israela to bed and says her prayers, that Buddha may watch over the faithful and bring them food and peace. One of Israel's world-famous landmarks is the Weizmann Institute of Science, named after the scientist who became first president of the State of Israel. Within its many modern buildings, we also find students from Africa and from Asia. It was here that hundreds of scientists from all over the world came to attend the International Conference on the Role of Science. This group, from the Young Farmers Association of India, have come for a short visit of only a few weeks, but they know what they want to see. They are most interested in the Weizmann Institute's experiments in plant cultivation. The botanical gardens belonging to the Faculty of Agriculture are the only place in the country where coffee is being grown. How does it strike you? And from theory to practice, a visit to an Israeli farm. This is the young settlement Shachar, whose inhabitants mostly came from India, from Cochin. And amongst the visitors, there are some who understand the Cochin dialect, only one of 367 Indian tongues. The settlement was founded in 1955. There are 73 families living here, and each family has 10 acres of land, which grows cotton, sugar beet, groundnuts and other vegetables. Shahar is situated in the Lachish region in the northern part of the Negev desert. And only a few miles away to the south stretches the wilderness, a land neglected for thousands of years, now being redeemed step by step. And so, down to Stom, the lowest spot on Earth, the Dead Sea. Here our guest